Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. I think we've all dropped into our Zoom room today. Welcome. As I said, this is the last time, I believe, for this year that I'll be have the pleasure of working with you all. So I guess let's make the most of today. Very warm welcome to you all, particularly our panel members who are joining us today. We've got 2 on the call so far, and a couple hopefully will come along. They may have been a little bit waylaid, but just to refresh, I am Vicky Dodson, one of the careers and employability developers here at UTAS, and I'm sure by now the engineering students in the room are quite familiar with me. I've had the pleasure of working with them for a little while. So before we get too far further in, I would like to just kick off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I sit in the Rivers Edge building on Inverest campus, and I like to work on my Palawakani, which is obviously, I think we're probably familiar with the language of our First Peoples here. So I'm practicing this, and I do have a slight speech impediment, so I often get it wrong. So please excuse me if I get any of if I mispronounce anything, but here at Inverest campus in the Rivers Edge building, it's actually the country of the Leteremana people who lived and thrived in this area, which actually is the meeting of 2 rivers. So we've got the Pipatumalilya River, which is the North Esk, and Kalamaluka, which is the Tamar rivers. So that is where I am sitting and have the pleasure of being today. I'd really like to acknowledge the incredible knowledge of the Palawa and Pakana peoples as the first engineers who, for over thousands of years, designed systems to care for the land and water, shaping our country with care and precision, and building sustainable ways of living. And I think we certainly, their knowledge and ingenuity just continue to inspire us today. So I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are with us today. So, as mentioned, we are really lucky to have some wonderful engineers here in this room who will be representing different sort of areas and disciplines or fields of engineers of engineering, I should say, and certainly organisations as well. I guess today is a little bit multi-purpose in that students, it gives you a chance to hear directly from people who are working in the industry, another chance, because I think, you know, it's, as we know, this is a great opportunity to build your knowledge of what it means to be an engineer in the real world of work. So to give you a chance to hear directly from these people, and also help build your knowledge about the different pathways and workplaces and opportunities in engineering, and also to practice, you know, ask you questions, being curious of, you know, professional people and those who have been sort of here before as soon to be graduated students. So the structure of today is I will firstly invite our guests to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about where they work and their role. Then I will ask a couple of questions just to kick us off and get us all nice and warmed up. After that, students, it's your turn. It's over to you to propose your question. So it's your opportunity to ask our guests any kind of curiosities you have about the role, how to get feet in the door, or what kind of the work is like, all of those sorts of things. So while I'm asking our panel members the first couple of questions, please have a think about what you're curious about, what you'd like to know, and then you can go ahead and write your question in the Q&A box there. And I've just noticed there that I know there's a group of you in one of the rooms, the physics room, I believe. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand and we'll organise that so you can ask your question. But for everybody else, please pop your question, have a think of your questions, and when you're ready, please add it to the Q&A. So let's get to it. I'm going to introduce the panel first of all. So in the room today, we have Chris Allchin. Welcome. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly, Chris, from Hydro.
You did. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. We also have James Clark from Fulton Hogan. Hi, James.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And we have Callum Tate, and is Hannah in the room? Maybe just Callum today. Callum Tate from TasWater. Welcome, Callum.
Thank you, Vicky.
Hi. All right, so let's just start, everybody, or for all of you, all three of you, if I can. I'd just like to start off by asking you each to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your role and the organisation, you know, where you're working at the moment. So, Chris, perhaps can we start with you, please?
Yeah, certainly. Yes, as I said, my name's Chris. I'm an electrical engineer. I studied at UTAS almost 2 decades ago. But yeah, I currently work for Hydro Tasmania. For those of you who aren't aware, Hydro Tasmania is the major electricity generator in Tasmania. So we have about 30 power stations in Tasmania, about 50 machines, and the Australia's largest sort of water manager. So yeah, as I said, I studied electrical power engineering and computer science at UTAS. So graduated, I think, 2006. And then yeah, I've sort of worked mostly in electricity industry as a consultant, and currently my current role is more in asset management of our electricity assets.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Wonderful. While we're on the theme of water, Callum, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please, to the group and tell us a little bit about your role and the organisation?
Well, I graduated, I guess it must be 6 years ago now, as a mechanical engineer. I proceeded not to do that at all, and ended up falling into what we term process engineering, which is kind of a bit of a mix of multiple streams of engineering, like mechanical, civil, structural, a little bit of control systems as well. I've been in the same role the entire time since I left UTAS, which is another bit of a weird role. It's not really like a mainstream brand of engineering, as you call it. Like it's an operational support role, really. So I kind of act as an internal consultant within TasWater, which is the state's water and sewage utility, to assist them with issues they have with our treatment assets, primarily water treatment assets. So it's taking the dirty water in the river and making it clean enough so when you drink it, you don't get sick, pretty much.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that and all the good work you do. Wonderful. Thank you, Callum. And James, would you like to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Hey guys, name's James Clark. I'm the State Operations Engineer, Project Manager at Fulton Hogan Construction. Fulton Hogan do civil infrastructure projects across Australia and New Zealand. In Tasmania, we have head offices in Launceston and Hobart. We construct roads, bridges, services and utility infrastructure. So like dams, pump stations, work on airports. We'll look at most construction jobs of any and all complexities. My role's in management after progressing from, say, site engineer through project engineer. Saying management, that's about as ambiguous as it is varied. And by that, I mean I could be leading the design and pricing of a potential project, planning or assessing a project that's underway, managing finances, reporting, contract requirements, or I guess the other parts would be mostly mentoring and working with other engineers to develop their understanding and problem solving on jobs that come up or are currently under construction.
Great. Okay, thank you, James. I saw a nice little image in my mind of a pathway as you were describing your, site engineering and then through to project engineering management. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so let's get into some more nitty-gritty to learn about what it's like in the world of work as a professional engineer. I'd like you to all reflect back a little bit to when you did graduate and you're a fresh graduate engineer, if you like. I'm wondering what surprised you the most when you entered the workforce as an engineer. Callum, you mentioned that you graduated about 6 years ago. So can I ask you to start off with an answer to that question, please?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me.
Oh, sorry.
Takes a bit of thinking.
Doesn't have to be anything massive, just if there's anything that comes to mind that you kind of went, oh, or even now you still sort of are surprised the difference between actually what's, your journey so far and what you thought it might be like whilst you were studying.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, it wasn't really a surprise, but I guess probably was a bit of a surprise at the time was the stark difference between, I guess, what you're taught and what you do, and how the ability to take what you're taught and apply it is probably more the skill that there is in engineering, or at least in my experience. It's not so much like what you're taught is really only scratching the surface as to how to actually be an engineer.
Yeah, so applying those sort of foundational skills that you learn through the course in a real life kind of setting. Is that what you're sort of...
Yeah, and the problem's never set out as clearly for you as it ever is at uni. And so very much your ability to look at the problem and simplify it as much as you can, that it sets you in good stead for working as an engineer in the real world.
Yeah, for sure. I guess in real life, when you're working with real, humans and projects, things go wrong. It's not going to be like a nice little neat question on your assignment or whatever. So accounting for all the variables and things, I guess. Yeah, that's a great reflection there. Thank you. What about you, James? Is there anything that you would like to share in terms of, do you recall any surprises when you first started out?
Yeah, look, I think I can say similar to Callum there, the difference between what's in the textbook, what's in the lecture, and then coming into, I guess, pardon the phrase, but the real world and going, oh, geez, am I prepared for it, is something that you might reflect on and go, oh, okay, this isn't quite like the assessment, the sheet that you got with the question perfectly laid out. But I guess, yeah, understanding, as you said, Vicky, that the degree is more of a foundation. So it's a great foundation. It develops your tools to problem solve. And I guess not to be disheartened that the equation that you studied so hard for, the equation that you took so long to try and understand, it might not pop up for a couple of years in the industry. It might not ever pop up, but that foundation is a tool set which really helps you get the problem solving tools going. And it's that for at least in the construction, not necessarily design, which I personally don't do too much, but working out that here is the foundation. There's a lot of different disciplines, whether it's civil, mechanical, electrical, anything else, few and far between, that I've got enough of an understanding to even just know who to ask to get assistance is actually quite a vital skill.
Yeah, that's a great tip. It can be tricky to identify who should I ask about this. And yeah, that whole thing about actually when you're graduating, work hard while you're learning here, because you need that, foundational information to even know where to start looking for that person who can help you. You know, once you enter the workforce, though, as an engineer, you really are starting out. So, you know, you're at the beginning of your learning, I should say. So, you know, embrace that as the opportunity, perhaps. And Chris, do you have any insights to share there around anything that surprised you when you started out?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, for me, what sort of came across not surprising most was the different varieties or different specialties of, I suppose, engineering knowledge that you can get into. So there's like you get a general understanding of electrical. So from my perspective, from electrical bits and pieces, but then coming out of uni and going into industry and design, there were so many different little sub areas of specialties that you can delve right into, and then I suppose the pathways that open up. You can go down into a technical specialty and really narrow your focus, or you can maintain sort of broad knowledge across that, or go into other areas. So from project management to asset management to people management. I suppose the opportunities that come when you get out to industry are so broad, and that it's up to you to drive that where you want to go. I suppose learn your own interests, whether more technical or whether you want to get into particular specialties, and then and pursue those. I guess that was my real appreciation, is that if you're really passionate or you want to seek an opportunity, you've really got to drive that yourself, and follow that through, and talk to lots of different people just to try and find your own way through, I guess. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I think we might stick with that sort of theme there for my last question before we get the students to go on. And I just want to remind students, please be thinking about your questions and start to get them in, because after this question, I'd love to be able to ask our panelists some of your questions. Chris, while you're talking about those sorts of pathways, I'd like to hear from you all around that. So there's this sort of, opportunity to either go down the consulting path or, that specialisation kind of area. Well, I mean, would you like to talk a little bit more about choices? Is it best to kind of, consult first and then go, which is have you found there to be perhaps a better way to start out as a grad? One or the other kind of thing. Chris, if you'd like to talk more about those different pathways there.
Yeah, I guess coming out of uni for me, I guess you don't know what you don't know, so you might think you know what you're like, but I guess I'd encourage anyone to try a bit of everything. Try and get as much broad experience as you can, because the opportunities that come along later. If you've got a broader initial base to start with, then you can change tack later if you choose to. So I suppose I found I went through I did a graduate program, which was a good way for me to get that broad experience. So I had an opportunity to try one particular area of specialty, and then try something else on sort of a rotational basis. So I think taking any opportunities that you can to gain as much knowledge from the people that you get the opportunity to work with, I think is probably my key takeaway.
Yeah, and then kind of maybe landing, after you've experienced all of those things, you can make that decision about the direction, or if there is a specific direction, or whether you still like to be kind of trying out those different areas. I guess our career, if we think about it in broad terms, it's not just the job or those couple of jobs, it's your whole working life and all the things that impact that. So yeah, thank you. What about you, Callum? Is there anything there that you would like to share with the group around sort of different pathways? So I can't recall which engineering field you specialised in, but have you had an opportunity to stay in that field you might have sort of done at uni, or have you expanded out and tried other things? And do you have any comments around that?
I kind of unintentionally left it immediately. and ended up doing something that kind of a role that covers a lot of different fields of engineering. Like we kind of touch out in my role, we touch toes in kind of lots of different pools, just by the nature of what we're looking at. They're looking at an asset that has electrical stuff in it, that relies on automated control, that it's made of pipes, there's water moving, there's pumps spinning it. So I think like getting into that, there wasn't really a grad program in Caswater when I did start. Maybe looking back at, we got the opportunity once to switch into a different role. I mean, it was fairly similar role, but the switch. I turned it down. Hindsight, I probably should have taken the opportunity to go and experience something a bit different. And I see the grads being able to do that now. In some ways, I'm a bit envious of that, and others not. But I think Chris is probably right in saying that you don't know what you don't know. You're coming into something, you don't know what you do like and what you don't. So if you get the opportunity to experience a few different parts of your field or something slightly different, that's maybe not necessarily engineering, it's just engineering adjacent, it's worth giving it a try. It's just because you studied it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the job that you want to do for the rest of your life. I mean, how you might get 5 years in and decide what you were doing that you did love straight away is not for you anymore. So I mean, you always explore the opportunities as they come up, I'd say.
That's a good piece of advice. And James, what about you? Do you have you've obviously, you know, I think civil might have been your original area, but you've worked through to management now, so site engineering and project engineer and so on. So would you have any thoughts around, you know, as a new grad, sort of specialising or consulting or, you know, going broad when you're first starting out?
Yeah, I think initially on graduation, you probably want to go with what interests you. So moving away from the discipline conversation, I mean, like, are you interested in building something? Are you interested in designing something? Are you interested in optimizing something or a process? But that might not be the opportunities that present to you on graduation. They might not be in your backyard. You might have to go abroad if you want to try and make that connection immediately. But as Chris said, like, those opportunities will come, but you'll find a whole lot more areas that might just tick with you as you get your foot in the door, as you explore the area of or the opportunities that might arise with any one or many organizations. So trying to find what you enjoy will make you more enthusiastic, of course, in your workplace, and following some of the avenues that poke up to go, actually, no, I really don't like that, or maybe I do quite enjoy doing this. And for myself, that was something along like optimizing the processes and construction planning, and also the financial side of things. And that might align you a bit more with like a management role. But I'm sure with Taswater, Hydro as well, like, you might come in as an engineer, go, excellent, I'm going to look at some infrastructure, but you might start getting involved in, I don't know, some contract law because it might be a necessity. And you go, hang on, I didn't study that, or at least I only touched on it, but I quite enjoy that. And if you follow those opportunities and you follow what you enjoy, but of course making the concession that you might not get there immediately at graduation, the organizations that hire you will try to move you and encourage you and develop you to get those skill sets, because you're going to be a valuable asset if you enjoy what you're doing and you're good at it. And you're going to be good at it if you actually like doing it, but you don't know what that might be because there's so many opportunities out there. You've just got to try and get in there with a bit more enthusiasm than, you know, just turning up, and try and find what suits you and work towards that.
I love that sort of concept of, we all cringe a little bit, but that lifelong learning, you know, it's just that constant, you know, it's almost like prototyping your career, trying it out and then testing it and seeing how that fits. And sometimes there can be surprises in there, like you know, referred to, there might be a bit of contract law or whatever. And yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice. And we all are always learning. So once you graduate, that's not the end of it. You know, there's always things to be learning in any profession, certainly not just in engineering, but in any profession. And that kind of attitude almost of enthusiasm, you know, if you could maybe start out in an area that you're pretty sure you'll like, in the sense of, well, you know, what are they doing? Is it, you know, designing, building, as you talked about? At least you think you'd like that at the start, and then being, you know, enthusiastic about that. And that will certainly be harnessed in my experience of the world of work by your employers. So I think there's some really great tips in there as well. All right, now we've got one question so far in our question box, so thank you very much. Don't be shy, everybody. This is your chance to really, you know, anything you've always wondered about, you might be concerned about something, you know, ask our guests about that. Consulting versus contracting, that's what I was trying to get at before. You know, how to pave the way in this specialisation, whatever. Don't be shy. There's no such thing as a silly question or a wrong question. We've got our professional people here for a reason. So let me ask this next question. So Jack has asked, when first trying to find a graduate position or vacation work, how should you go about trying to give yourself the best chance to land that position? Who would like to start? Chris, Callum, James, who would like to answer that question about, you know, how to give yourself the best chance of getting that position?
I can have a go at least a part of the answer.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I suppose there's different options out there, different companies that have vacation programs and stuff. They can be quite competitive. So I guess, you know, first thing I'd say is, if you do apply somewhere and you don't get accepted, don't get disheartened. Try again. There's and I guess yeah, apply for lots of options. And try and put yourself best self forward, I guess. It's not always about grades or how well you've done at uni, but it's, you know, it's also about your other activities and, you know, other stuff you've done outside, and, you know, trying to get present yourself to the employer, you know, in terms of all the other what other attributes you can bring to the business, I guess. Just to and if you've got if you know other people, so there's always, you know, it's not just the online, I suppose. Big businesses will quite often advertise online, and, you know, and you'll be able to apply for that. But lots of smaller businesses will go by word of mouth as well. So if you've got family networks or friends networks, putting direct expressions of interest out just as effective as applying for big programs as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that hidden job market, we've certainly talked about that before now. Yeah. Callum, would you like to give some tips around best chance to land a position?
Just had a bit of a think about it in a different way. So I've been on, there's a couple of times I've been, at least once I've been on an interview panel for vacation students, knowing people who have been on interview panels for grads and the like as well. In my experience, you're not really after someone who's got skills. Like, that'd be all well and good, but you've just come out of uni, or you're still at uni. We don't expect you to have skills that are going to be applicable straight away. You'll have some adjacent skills that you can use and build off, but really you're looking for someone who's enthusiastic, willing to learn, and hardworking. If you can sell that to them, first through your resume, obviously, and then if you're lucky enough to get an interview, make sure you're doing something like that. just be interested about what the business does. I know when I can't remember what the interview was for, but when I was doing an interview once, the guy who did the interview a couple of years later said one of the things that sold me to him was the questions I asked at the end and how interested I was in the job that he did. And he could see he could use that later on. That's something I tend to look for and discuss with colleagues who are on interview panels about, is like, always look for that person who's keen to learn and wants to further their knowledge, and because they're the people that will work hard. So if you can sell that to whoever's asking the question, that'll go a long way to getting you in the door.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, that enthusiasm, that curiosity around, and again, we've talked about this, so this is really great, you know, getting to know the employer, finding out about what projects they're working on and stuff, and genuinely being interested in that, so you can bring that into your interview and stuff. Yeah, and if you're not interested in what they're doing, maybe that's not the right, you know, summer vacation job or role for you. Maybe look elsewhere, but I doubt that would be the case. James, anything to add there around giving yourself the best chance to land a position?
Not too much to add, but I'll build on it. That genuine interest is important. So when you come in for an interview, whether it's a vacation job or the graduate, the enthusiasm's critical, but in all honesty, like, you don't go in laying it on too thick. Like, most of the people that will be interviewing you have gone through this process before, and unless you really, really, really love bridges, don't pretend that you do, because everyone can see right through that. But if you've got that genuine interest, you're actually there to, hey, I want to try and further my interest, develop my skills, then that's something that people will pick up on and go, let's develop that person. Let's hire them. We will maybe not, like, I think it might have been Chris that said, like, you're not going to come in and you're not going to be, I don't know, the operations manager straight away. Like, you might have a lot of knowledge in one skill set, but you're going to be doing a lot of different things, getting exposed to a lot of different disciplines. And you've just got to have that adaptability or that motivation to just go, right, I'm going to try and learn about this the best I can to do the role that I've been given, and try and show the employer that, hey, I actually am going to be a valuable asset. And that's because I am turning up on time. I am trying to actually do my best. Depending on not whether it's a public entity or a private entity, I am understanding that it's a job. So I've got a role to do, and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. And I'm going to try and, you know, show some enthusiasm to develop myself and be an attractive employee.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. Great advice there. Now, James, while you've got the microphone, there's a question here specifically for you. So you mentioned things like contract law and finance. Is it common for engineers to do bits outside of pure engineering? Great question.
I would say in general, yes, but I guess what would vary is what your role is or where your role sits in the industry. If you go into pure design, and whether that's some sort of utility system or say it's straight onto roads, you are probably going to be looking at the specifications, the standards, the pure engineering for that piece of infrastructure, using infrastructure as an example. If you're in, say, where I am, so construction on the contractor's side, which just for context means that we're building it, we're not designing it, or we're not the client. So we're not the one who wants the subdivision. We're not the state government who owns the road. We're building it for them. We have to be exposed to how that agreement has been made. So the contract law. If we do anything wrong or what restrictions are on us, that might be contract. There's a cost to doing things. You're a private business. You try to make money. There's a finance element. there might be technical things which aren't apparent initially, but you go, well, geez, I need to learn a lot more about that specification or that technical discipline, which, hey, I'm one of 5 people in the team and we're all civil, but someone needs to learn a lot about electrical in the next month. It might not be pure engineering. It might be more the manufacturing. It might even be chemical. Like there's a lot of different things, but it really just depends on what industry you go to and how far, I guess, you go into that spectrum of I'm doing pure engineering design. I want to go into like a PhD or R&D. If you go to the other side where you're actually building things, everything has a connection. So yeah, your chemistry has a connection, physics has a connection, engineering has a connection, finance, contract. They all form part of, I guess, the real world in how you build things. So you're going to end up finding that you look at it once in a while.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I hope that clarifies that question for you, who answered that question. So thank you. That was a really good question. Okay, so on to another question from our group here. So this is about looking for jobs once you've graduated, I guess. So the question is, what were your priorities for a job when you were looking for one? So Callum, can I maybe throw to you first? What were your priorities when you were looking for a job?
I must admit, I didn't have many priorities when I was looking for a job. It's like, are you going to employ me? Are you going to pay me money? And I had a few, like when I did my vacation work and was talking to people I knew that were engineers. I think a big thing they said was, foot in the door is the hardest bit. Once you're there, you can kind of progress your career where you want to just by word of mouth. You don't necessarily need to, like, your curiosity and your, I guess, just what you see as you are in a role will get you to a job that you like, or like. So I didn't really look for anything in particular. I was kind of fortunate in a way. I did my vacation work at Taswater, and at the end of the 12 weeks, they're like, yeah, come back when you finished uni. We'll make sure there's a role for you. I didn't have to do a lot of looking, but at that point, I hadn't really even thought too much about what I had as priorities. Because get in the door, and as we've touched on it a fair bit already, like where you start, you don't really know what you don't know. You don't know where you want to end up necessarily. So you really just want to get in the door to somewhere that's got some different opportunities and try a few things out.
Yeah, thanks, Callum. Can I ask a bit of a follow-up there? Time over, so if you're graduating today with that 6 years of experience behind you, knowing what you know now, would you have maybe given some thoughts around the priorities for, targeting your job search, or were you really happy, with how that happenstance kind of rolled out? You did an internship or summer vacation with Taswater and that's where it led. Would you have changed that?
No, I don't think so.
No. Cool.
It's worked out pretty well. I mean, I'm sure there would be cases where people would do their internship and not necessarily be very happy with what happened. I think a friend of mine, he ended up not doing a lot of engineering at all in his placement. She wasn't too happy about. He didn't get a chance to really see the professional environment too much. So I think if that's the case, then potentially you wouldn't try and take a role there if they were offering it to you. Maybe just be mindful of that, but I'd probably wouldn't change too much myself.
Great, thank you. And Chris, what about you? What were your priorities when you were first looking for a job?
Yeah. Again, I was studying electrical power engineering. So I guess that sort of led me down a particular path. Mainly within the power generation industry, and there's only a few big players. I guess one of the things I looked at for jobs is really the opportunities learn and grow within that. So I ended up on a graduate program at Hydro Tasmania, but felt there was a fair bit of opportunity to do different things and learn stuff. Was one of the things I was looking at, but I guess it was also one of the things that influenced me was I suppose my life choices. I guess I grew up in Tasmania. I didn't have a strong desire to move to the mainland or overseas, and because there's obviously lots of opportunities outside of Tasmania, but that wasn't a driver for me. So my focus was really, well, I'd like to really stay in Tasmania, what opportunities I've got here, and sort of that partly shaped my choices. Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing to think about, and it is something we've talked about with this group, is what are your priorities around your life, in terms of location and ability to move, desire to move, or which areas of the state and all of that kind of thing. They're really important things to consider. So that was good to hear you refer to that. I'm going to ask another question, which is not in the Q&A. So there is one other question in the Q&A, but it's a beautiful question, perhaps as our last question. So I'm just going to hold off on that one. I'd like to ask you all, though, what would you recommend students do while they're studying to help them either, be more competitive, if you like, in graduate roles, or just be a better engineer once they're starting out, sort of thing? So any recommendations? We know that employers love all kinds of experience, right? So the part-time job at Macca's and the sporting coach, or, the whole gambit of experience. But I'm really interested to hear from you around what you'd recommend students can do while they're studying. James, we might throw to you first for that one, if that's okay.
So while you're studying, I guess your intention is to get as best grades as you can. And that's not necessarily what an employer is always looking for. I'm not saying you need to try and sandbag your studies here, guys, but it's that initiative to actually learn. It's the initiative to try and improve yourself. So if harking back to, I guess, what like that your employer is looking for, when you come up to that graduate interview, say for an interview, graduate position, the candidate that's got we'll say like a well-rounded personal life as well. So it's not always about it's like what you said before on assessing those priorities. It depends on your employer. Some employers might be like, we want somebody who's fairly regimented and they just really want to like work. And some people have that persona and it suits that employer quite well. Other people or other companies might be looking for someone who's got a bit more of like a team dynamic. So it might be hard to just pick someone up and put them into a cohesive team. So you're looking for somebody that might have, I guess, more personal attributes as opposed to key learnings. As we've said before, like most of those learnings come with time on the job. So I'm not going to say, hey, forgo your studies, but personal development's quite important. So if you're trying to showcase that, hey, you've done some team sports, or you're part of a club, or that, hey, and in all honesty, like some of the interview is, what are your hobbies? We want to try and understand you as a person. Just work on yourself, try and make that balance between, hey, what's my professional ambitions and what's my personal ambitions, because that makes the person, well, there's a bit more to it, of course, but that makes the person. So as an employer, you're looking for a person that's going to fit. And depending on not where that spectrum lies, we want to understand you. We want to get to know you. If you're an employee, we're going to be spending a lot of time with you. So who are you? And yet, just like, geez, it's a very, very deep thing to say, hey, just find out who you are, guys. But no, just like work on yourselves. Try and find out what makes you happy, what makes you interested. because that's the spark that people are going to look for.
Yeah, fantastic. Really great advice there. Getting to know yourself and being able to talk about that, I think, is more important than ever in this age of, developing digital, AI, Gen AI and things like that. Employers really want to see that human. Chris, have you got anything that you would like to add there? Any suggestions or recommendations for students to, be more competitive, or what they can be doing while they're a student to help that process at the other end?
Yeah, I guess the two parts to that one, one is make yourself visible, I guess. Part of that question is, to the employers, as part of the application process. And then you've talked a little bit about being, well-rounded and, and having other activities that you can point to, as, demonstrating things like teamwork, because ultimately, like all businesses, you need to work in an environment with other people. So being able to work collaboratively with them and demonstrate that is important. Again, I guess most interviews these days, they'll look to behavioural likes, and I think that's been touched on a bit. It's about how you work with others, and if you can really demonstrate your passion for something, and your willingness to learn, and some genuine interest in the business and the job you're applying for, that's going to come across. So if you do your research, like if you're applying for a job, do the research on the business, understand what drives it, and then use your other activities, or look for examples that you can point to that demonstrate or aligns with the the business's drivers, I guess. And I guess the second part of that is it's a better engineer. I guess there's lots of different types of engineers out there. Some lots of different specialties, and a lot of it goes back to individuals' preferences and choices. But I guess what I'd say is get into the detail, and really understand something and unpack something, and take the opportunity to question stuff more, particularly as a young engineer. Take the time. You won't need to get to an end goal, and there's always business and time drivers. But if you've got place with a problem, really take the time to unpack and understand it, to sort of get your a genuine understanding of what you're trying to solve. It's probably one thing I'd suggest.
Great. Thank you. That's awesome, Chris. Thanks. So in the interest of time, I'm just really conscious that it's almost 10:02. So I'm going to ask the last question. Callum, I'll throw it to you to start with, but I will ask Chris and James to answer as well. Just really briefly, if you can, even just a couple of words, if that's how it rolls. But and this is a question from our students again, if you were starting your career again, what advice would you give to your student self? So one piece of wisdom or a couple of words, Callum, piece of advice that you would give to yourself, your student self.
I'd probably give a couple. There are no stupid questions. If you don't ask the question, you don't know, you're likely going to make a bad decision because of it. Just ask the question. The other one, just related, is pick up the phone. It is very easy to send an email, but it's very hard to convey even a moderately complicated thing by email, and you'll end up spending, an hour typing an email that could easily be resolved with a 5 or 10 minute phone conversation. Pick up the phone and talk to the person about it.
Beautiful. Two lovely takeaways there, Callum. Thank you. Chris, if you were starting again, what are some advice that you'd give your student self?
I guess, I'd say back yourself, and I yeah, just what I read at Callum's, person, taking the time to question stuff as well, question everything. And yeah, and there's, in the workplace, there's lots of opportunities to learn from everybody. Everyone's got something to add or educate you on. So yeah, ask questions a lot. I think, reiterate what Callum said. It's quite good.
Beautiful. That curiosity, being interested, that's coming up. That's been a big theme today. Thanks, Chris. And James, what about you?
Yeah, I hate to piggyback, but you do see ripping off that Band-Aid to make that phone call. It's very daunting to begin with, because half the time, conversations on the phone, I don't know, might be with your parents or your friends or something, but in a professional setting, it's a bit scary. It's a bit daunting. But problem solving, which I guess in essence is engineering, is about communication. So trying not to be afraid, or even if you are afraid, just having that courage to make that call, to have the conversation. And if you don't know what you're talking about, people are going to see that. So ask the question. Make sure that you're trying your best to understand the subject matter or what's going on, maybe in preparation for that meeting or that phone call. But don't be so disheartened that you can't ask that question, because having that two-way communication is critical to you solving that problem, to building that relationship. And that's quite hard. And I'll say it was quite daunting for me to start with. It's a lot of people come in, they command respect, they're senior, and you feel a little bit sheltered. You're a little bit, oh crap, okay, I have to be careful about what I say. But just, be yourself, and try to find that confidence to ask the question and start that conversation, particularly if you're not sure what you're doing, or that you're a little bit anxious about what you're trying to deliver.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you very much. And know, back yourself, know that it's okay not to know. When you're starting out as an engineer, we've talked about that today. You really, when you first graduate and you grab that first role, you're at the beginning of actually doing this for real in the real world of work. And so backing yourself that it's okay to ask those questions, because it's crucially important to find out those answers.
I'll just add on that.
Yeah.
If we all knew what we were doing and the job came in and we knew how to do it, we wouldn't really have a job.
Yeah.
So understanding that we all, not saying that we all don't know what we're doing, but we know what we know, but we don't necessarily know what we don't know, has been said. But we're trying to work out what the problem is half the time, and then how to solve it. So we need to talk about that and ask the questions.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, look, we are out of time. Thank you so much for our panelists, Callum, Chris and James today. Really appreciate you giving us your time out of your busy schedules. And thank you again. Your experience and advice and discussion and riffing has been wonderful today. Students, I really encourage you to all take a moment to reflect on what we've heard today from our panel members, and even make some notes about it. It'd be great if you could perhaps make a note on one or two of the key things that you learned today, and maybe even one or two things that you might like to enact, so put into action, find out more about, or practice doing more, or whatever, to really, make today something practical for you. So let's call the session to an end. Again, thanks, Chris, Callum and James. Really appreciate it. Students, thank you for your time. It's been wonderful working with you this semester, and I may see some of you again at some other time. So thank you and goodbye.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.